Hello everyone, this is Angelfish. Starting with this episode, I will be discussing about the origins and the scientific history of depression. In today's fast-paced society, we are constantly exposed to new things. In this highly developed internet age, we have access to all kinds of information from around the world. While enjoying convenience, our brains are also bearing more burdens, constantly needing to process the information we receive. However, if we absorb or are affected by too much negative information, it can easily lead to unpleasant emotions. If these emotions accumulate for a long time without being released, depressive mood may develop. The word depression has only become widely used in recent years, but in reality, this kind of emotion has likely existed since the dawn of humanity, or at least since the evolution of higher cognitive function. It has always accompanied us. Due to limitations in previous scientific, medical, and cognitive understanding, and due to limited public awareness, depression was neither widely known nor taken seriously. According to the World Health Organization's estimate in November 2021, about 3.8% of global population currently suffers from depression to varying degrees. Among adults, the proportion is around 5%, with nearly 8 billion people worldwide. As many as 300 million people may be troubled by depression. Depression is far more serious than typical low mood. Most patients cannot manage it on their own. It severely impacts their work, study, and daily life. In the worst cases, it can lead to suicide. According to incomplete statistics, at least 700,000 people die by suicide worldwide each year. Suicide is already the fourth leading cause of death among those aged 15 to 29. According to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2020, at least 21 million adults in the U.S. experienced a major depressive episode that year, accounting for 8.4% of the adult population. Among them, 6.2% were male and 10.5% were female, with a significantly higher proportion in women. In addition, the highest prevalence were found among those aged 18 to 25 at 17%. Among the 21 million adults who had depressive episodes, about 14.8 million experienced severe physical and mental impairment, accounting for 6% of the adult population. Among adolescents aged 12 to 17, about 4.1 million had at least one major depressive episode in the past year, 17% of the total youth population. Among them, the rate for girls was significantly higher than for boys. Of those 4.1 million adolescents, around 2.9 million were severely affected, representing 12% of youth population. Among those 21 million adults, around 66% received treatment, but only 46.9% of the 4.1 million adolescents get treated. I'm showing you this data to tell you depression does not depend on nationality, wealth, skin color, or age. It can affect anyone, and the proportion of young people affected is clearly higher than adults. Overall cases are also increasing year by year. This is becoming an increasingly serious issue. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, published in 2013 by the American Psychiatric Association, if 5 or more of the following symptoms occur within the same 2-week period, and at least one is either depressed mood or loss of interest or pleasure, then the person may be diagnosed with depression. 1. Feeling depressed most of the day, nearly every day. For example, feels sad, empty, hopeless, irritability in adolescents and children. 2. Markedly diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities most of the day, nearly every day. 3. Significant weight loss without dieting or weight gain. For example, more than 5% change of body weight in a month. 4. Insomnia or hypersomnia nearly every day. 5. Psychomotor agitation or retardation nearly every day. 6. Fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day. 7. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt nearly every day. 8. Diminished ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness nearly every day. 9. Recurrent thoughts of death, suicidal ideation without a plan, a suicide attempt, or a specific suicide plan for committing suicide. If you or someone you know is experiencing these symptoms, the only correct thing to do is to seek medical help immediately. I am not a medical or pharmaceutical professional, and this video is not a medical advice. But I have experienced depression for many years and know how it feels. So I sincerely urge everyone, depression should be treated with professional medical care or counseling as soon as possible. I believe that to fully understand, overcome, or prevent depression, we must start from its origins. The earliest written records of depression can be tracked back more than 4,000 years to Mesopotamian civilization. The West prosperous Babylonian civilization left behind cuneiform tablets, now preserved in museums around the world, such as the Louvre, British Museum, French National Library, Berlin Museum, and Yale's Babylonian collection. These tablets include descriptions of mental and neurological disorders, including epilepsy, stroke, obsessive-compulsive disorder, phobias, depression, and anxiety. At that time, people believed that symptoms such as depression and anxiety were caused by the patient's own offense to the gods, causing the gods' anger to be vented on them. Epilepsy or strokes were thought to be demonic possession. Treatments including rituals and exorcism, usually performed by priests, not physicians. Depression was long poorly treated. That changed with the arrival of one man, Hippocrates, known as the father of Western medicine. Hippocrates and other ancient physicians described melancholia as a distinct disease with mental and physical symptoms, including persistent fears and despondence, poor appetite, abulia, sleeplessness, irritability, and agitation. Please note that melancholia is not the same as depression today. It is a broader concept. The word melancholia originates from the humor theory, which may have first appeared in ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. It wasn't systematized until ancient Greece. Hippocrates was the first to apply this theory in medicine. He and later Galen developed the humor theory into a complete medical theory, which influenced Western medicine for more than 2,000 years. The humor theory was not replaced until the development of anatomy and cell theory. In 1858, Rudolf Virchow published Cellular Pathology and applied cell theory to pathology, which finally overturned humor theory. Hippocrates introduced humor theory into medicine, while Galen developed and promoted it extensively. Since dissection of human bodies were prohibited in ancient Greece, they studied animal anatomy instead. Galen conducted many experiments, including the squealing pig experiment. Their contributions laid the foundation for later medical advances. In On the Nature of Man, Hippocrates described the theory as follows. The human body contains blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. These are the things that make up its constitution and causes its pain and health. Health is primarily that state in which these constituent substances are in the correct proportion to each other, both in strength and quality, and are well mixed. According to Hippocrates and Galen, blood from the liver represents spring, warm, and moist. The corresponding element in nature is air. People whose body is dominated by blood tend to be optimistic, friendly, enthusiastic. Yellow bile from the gallbladder represents summer, hot, dry. The corresponding element in nature is fire. People whose body is dominated by yellow bile tend to be assertive, aggressive, and bad-tempered. Black bile from spleen represents autumn, cold and dry. The corresponding element in nature is earth. People whose body is dominated by black bile tend to be lazy, timid, and prone to illness. Phlegm from the brain or the lungs represents winter, cold and moist. The corresponding element in nature is water. People whose body is dominated by phlegm tend to be apathetic, low energy, and forgetfulness. The phlegm of humanism is far from the phlegm as it is defined today. Phlegm was used as a general term to describe white or colorless secretions such as pus, mucus, saliva, or sweat. Each humoral corresponded to a temperament. Blood corresponds sanguine. Yellow bile corresponds choleric. Black bile corresponds melancholic. Phlegm corresponds phlegmatic. So Hippocrates believed that melancholia results from excess of black bile or it cannot be mixed with other humors. To treat melancholia, Hippocrates used bloodletting, bathing, exercise, and diet. This was a very advanced theory in a time when people were full of superstition. Even though later science disproved humoral theory, Hippocrates was the first to believe that disease was not caused by the gods, but came from within the body. He and Galen made massive contributions to the development of medicine and helped advance clinical practice for centuries. The humoral theory remained influential for nearly 2,000 years. Hippocrates also authored the famous Hippocratical Oath, earning his title as the father of Western medicine.